Hello, everyone. Today we are discussing how content has evolved during the pandemic phase. And to help us all in understanding the role of content, how has it changed over the course of last 3 months, and where will it lead from here? We are talking to a panel of content experts, which include Prasun Kumar, who is the CMO of Magic Breaks, Karthik Nagarajan, who is the Chief Content Officer at Wavemaker, and Meghna Bhatt, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at Scoopwoo. Welcome Prasoon, Karthik and Meghna, and thank you for being available to join us today for this panel. My first question is to everyone, how more important has the role of content marketing been during past 3 months? And what are your observations, Prasoon?
Well, content has always been very fundamental to marketing in many more ways more than one. And in past, it has been used very successfully to acquire, to engage, and to retain consumers. Right? I don't think fundamentally that changes. But however, what has happened is because of this crisis, the importance of content and content marketing has come to the forefront. And so to that extent, I would say this crisis has rather been an opportunity for content marketing in ways more than one. Now, the disruption and the uncertainty surrounding everyone's life right now means that consumers are absolutely confused, and they are non-committed, and they want hand-holding, they want a lot of reassurance for them to consider any kind of investment, big ticket or small ticket, whatever. And this just means that brands and businesses have to rethink in ways where you would have a narrative which is going out to consumers. How is that narrative going to be very contextual, very meaningful, very actionable for a consumer? Because while a consumer is spending a time in his home and has access to all kind of devices probably to consume all kind of content, but this crisis also means that not every kind of content is a welcome content. And I think consumers are very choosy right now in terms of what do they really want to consume and let what kind of information enter their life. So to that extent, I think this crisis has been a big opportunity, and we have already seen a lot of brands and businesses using content very smartly during this period. And so I would say content marketing now, as a marketer, I would say it's almost at the forefront of various marketing levers that one would have.
So, Karthik, how much COVID has fast-paced the evolution of content mediums?
It has. A lot has been happening, and it is also natural, right, Rahul? I completely agree with what Prasun just said. Just to add to it, see, content is a cultural intervention, right? And at a time that the world is going through so much, it is obvious that brands will probably take that extra step to make that sort of an intervention, especially around what is happening around us, right? And the way we look at content, and the way I think we should look at content also is, it is a non-traditional way of a brand creating a touch point with its consumers, right? So in that sense, given that traditional advertising has more or less slowed down in these 3 months, I think naturally brands have gravitated towards this. What I'm most surprised in a very pleasant way is how well some of the brands, like Prasun said, have done it. Whether it is our own clients or whether it is people outside, I think they've done a fantastic job. Some have, joined what is actually happening, and whether it is appreciating healthcare workers or whether it is helping proliferate the messaging from the government, etc., which is very topical. And some have also managed to stand out as a brand, beyond just COVID, which is also an equally amazing thing to do. So very pleasantly, very happy with what is going on, but not very surprised as well.
Right, not very surprised. And Meghna, have you observed any change in content formats or attention span of users, change in their preferred genre?
Yeah. So I think, like both Prasun and Karthik mentioned, this is an opportunity, right? And one thing that's the reason for that is because we've at our end seen a huge user growth. Whether it's been about 30% in text, we've added some 200,000 subscribers on YouTube just in the last 3 months, right? So it makes sense for brands to be part of that partnership really that content has created with people, and how that relationship has evolved from being just something that was a part of my life, and that is now a partnership for me, right? In terms of how this has affected creators and formats, naturally the pace of innovation has gone up quite a bit. As creators, we are anyways innovating, but in this period, the pace of the kind of innovation we need to do has really gone up, right? So in the last 3 months itself, we have launched 3 new shows. We have a bunch of different kinds of formats that we have tested across production capabilities, done a lot of at-home content, worked with our creators and our influencers. We've done on-ground formats. We've done at-home, in-studio formats, right? And aside from this, what we're also seeing in general is the growth of formats like long format blogs, right, which are more immersive and which 25, 30-minute blogs, or interactive content, or things like categories like mental health and personal finance, which typically you wouldn't see in the creator universe. But it's great that these are topics that matter to people, and that now mainstream creators have started creating content around these issues also, and these categories, which also opens it up to many different kinds of brands to be part of those genres, right? So it's definitely been a challenging time in terms of how do we manage production and how do we manage at home, but also a time for a lot of innovation. So that's the opportunity for both creators as well as for brands.
Right. So those are good insights, Meghna. But Prasun, have you noticed any distinguished content practice by your peers in past few months? Something that stands out?
Well, there are many, in a way, but I just wanted to add a bit to what Meghna was saying there. As a brand, the way we have seen it and the way we have observed it is ultimately, every brand creates content to engage with consumers and to bring consumers on board and so on and so forth. What has happened in past is, in pre-COVID world, you had consumers out, in the market, out in the world, and there were many avenues for consumers to interact with brand and also, consume brand messaging. In a post-COVID world, literally brands have to do all the reach out to really, take any message to the consumer now. And that urgency to reach out has meant that brands have also started experimenting a lot. Earlier experimentation stroke innovation was a good buzzword, and it was probably in one corner of a CMO's mind. But I think what this crisis has done is it has pushed that on forefront, and I see a lot of my CMO friends as well thinking day and night of new formats, new platforms, and how do you really create content which is very, very meaningful right now. And so all of this means that brands which were very little lethargic in terms of content and content marketing as well are now looking at it in a very, very mainstream way. Now, coming to your question, there are a lot of brands. There are a lot many ways in which brands have started interacting with consumers in very, very different manner. I have seen a lot of contextual content. For example, the entire hand wash and the entire sanitary kind of a category, soaps and all. They started coming out with extremely contextual content, which was very relevant for consumers. I think there were some of those content which were very, very interesting. I saw some interesting content from some fintech firm. Meghna was talking about personal finance and all. I did see some interesting content happening there on the fintech side, as well as on the edtech side, because that's an opportunity, over there that they are looking at. Besides that, I also saw a lot of conversational content, which was generated by a lot of OTT platforms, because, obviously the OTT subscriptions have also touched through the roof right now. And all of a sudden, that's a space which has become very hot. So also saw a lot of content happening there, which was, very, very engaging. Plus, very surprisingly, I also saw a lot of content from categories which were very highly impacted because of COVID. Real estate, hospitality, some of these categories where consumers have just vanished, more or less. These brands, I think, felt a sudden urge to really, start connecting with consumers in a new way and start reassuring them and trying to bring them back into the category and so on and so forth. So I did see a lot of interesting content there as well.
Right, Prasoon. Since you spoke about topicality, we'll come back to it. But before that, Karthik, can you take a couple of minutes and help our viewers understand the forced media consumption habit? Help us understand how is that happening, first of all, and then, as a matter of fact, we all know that print has really gone down. What about other mediums? Help us understand that as well.
Did you say the forced consumption habit? It's a very
Yes.
interesting way of putting it. I'll probably read it as the lack of options that we have today, and then because of lack of original content on television and the fact that we can't go to theaters. So if you look at that, I'll give you probably the best way to answer this question is to give you a few examples of what we've done. Right. Meghna spoke about how platform consumption for Scoop Whoop has gone up. Another area which is true beyond news and long form text is also gaming. Gaming has seen a huge increase over the last 3 months, whether it is casual gaming or hyper casual gaming or even esports. Right. So there's a lot of stuff we're doing with clients there in terms of game integrations and esports league creation and stuff like that. Right? So that's been interesting. Some of the brands, some of the clients that we work with, like Netflix, are also in the mediums that have a high consumption at this point. Right. So I think the kind of stuff that Netflix, a brand like Netflix, is doing in terms of keeping the audience engaged over and beyond the consumption pattern. That's been very interesting and very heartening. While all of this is happening, I don't know if you've seen this. Just a few days back, Myntra did the end of reason sale, and it's we are privy to some of the numbers, and it's an extraordinary success. Right? They sort of went over and beyond the targets that they had, which also gives you some sense in terms of what the consumer behavior. The latent consumer behavior is and what we can expect when the market sort of open up. We've done a lot of influencer outreach and advocacy work with Myntra, both for the end of reason sale as well as otherwise. So I think the lack of normal consumption patterns have definitely made marketers more imaginative. And I think that has resulted in some wonderful campaigns over the last 9 years.
So, Meghna, topicality is one thing, but since past 3 months, and maybe this is the first time that we have been seeing COVID-related content for so long now, but how important it is for brands to catch up onto the topicality and be relatable in such times. And is the audience willing to see COVID-related content from brands too?
You see, I don't think that in general audiences are actively avoiding COVID content, okay? Because the numbers are not, are saying a different story. There's this all content related to COVID works very well, right? However, I think that barring news, audiences are looking for more positivity related to COVID overall. Okay, so if brands need not be part of that conversation if they don't feel that they have anything positive to contribute to it. you can do product related advertising, and that's fine. Let's take the example of, say, a QSR or a restaurant. A restaurant can talk about new launches and new products because ordering in has gone up and people have that fatigue of cooking at home. So it's a great time to talk about a new launch right now. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is, or in addition to that, you can say that, hey, you know what, this whole idea of contactless dining, there's a lot of uncertainty around that. People don't understand it. People don't know what it really means. Is it safe? Is it not safe? So perhaps the brand can talk about contactless dining, because that's a larger topic of interest, and you as a brand have a relevant point to make, and you have something to contribute to that conversation, right? So that's a natural story that you are part of, that you can also contribute to. So I think that there's no brands should not feel sort of intimidated by COVID in that sense. I think whatever stories you tell should bring positivity to people, and secondly, they should be done authentically. I mean, buzzword alert, but I think it's important to really stay true to tell the stories that you can authentically tell, right? As opposed to jumping on the bandwagon of something that's trending.
Rahul, if I can just add to that a bit, it's very interesting what Meghna just said, and I'll just, draw back from our example. What happened is, contextuality does not mean talking COVID all the time, right? Contextuality means, you're really getting under the skin of the consumer, and what COVID has done to them, and can brand play a role there to really relieve the situation or stress. And as Meghna rightly said, if you have a positive story there, by all means go out and communicate. A small example. During this entire lockdown, whole of April and May, we realized that consumers were locked inside their homes, and for the first time, they probably were seeing every nook and corner of their home 24/7. Generally you are at home, but you do not know every corner of the home as well, right? And sitting at home, you logged in, your children logged in, your parents logged in, everyone logged in, classes happening, online classes happening from home, work from home happening, offices running from home, kitchen open 24/7, and so on and so forth. It all meant that the need for the thinking that got triggered in the mind of a consumer as to really, if I had to build a perfect home, how it would be. Really, I can see shortcomings of my home right now, and I wish I had this extra balcony, I wish I had this one extra room, I wish I could make a home office, and so on and so forth, right? Now we just tapped on that insight, and we went out to consumers with a narrative which is ghar par reh ke ghar ko dekha, right? And this just one simple narrative, it just trended, and as of today, we have got about 80% of our traffic back on the platform, right? The point remains that if you do an intervention which consumers identify with, which they do think that it's going to help them, either find a solution to a problem that they're facing right now, or either way, COVID or no COVID. If it is COVID, all the more better. But that's what contextuality means ultimately. We never use the word COVID in our communication, right? But it was just the resultant of COVID and the pain points that we tapped on, and I think that's what means. That's what I meant by contextuality.
Yeah, Prasoon, that's interesting to learn. Would you also have examples, or would you also know of other brands who are innovatively communicating to their audience, to their customers?
Well, there are many. I think one of the communication that obviously stuck to me, which may or may not fall in a typical content domain, but it was a narrative nonetheless. Which was what Colgate, what Lifebuoy did in this period. Okay, and a series of communication which went about reassuring consumers that, listen, there is a way to fight this, and there are things that you can do to remain safe, because safety was a paramount concern in everyone's mind, and for the brand to come out and really play on that, apart from typical ads, etc., that they did, they generated a whole lot of other content in the same series, which was extremely interesting by the brand. I had not seen brand kind of producing those kind of content. content. Lifebuoy had a certain positioning, and it used to stick to that positioning. But I saw a different side of the brand, during this crisis as well. I think that example did stand out in my mind, of a brand really doing something meaningful out there in this space.
Sure, sure. I feel it's been very insightful discussion so far. There's of course a lot to learn also. But my final question will be to everyone here. Karthik, you can go first. Where do you think content will head from here, and will it become the preferred format of communication?
See, I'm generally romantic, but not when it comes to business, right? Like I think like Prasun said, this has been a great opportunity. Unlike Meghna, it's been a great opportunity for brands, and we're all very happy about the kind of work that has happened. Right? Just the campaign that Prasun spoke of. What a beautiful thought, right? About discovering your own house. It's a wonderful campaign. I've experienced that as well. I think this has definitely helped brands sort of play more with content than they would have normally if this was a regular year, right? And I think a lot of clients, whether it is Unilever or whether it is Mondelez, which has been doing so much great work in the last 20 days. I'm sure this is going to probably leave a permanent change in the way they look at the larger media mix and their marketing investments, right? So that is definitely there. But at the same time, I think it will be a very different world once things open up and we go back to the regular life, right? I, for one, I don't believe there is a new normal, right? If you believe so, you should step out in Bangalore and experience the traffic jam that are happening as we speak, and then you'll know that we're basically just going back where we were, right? So there's no new normal. So I'm not going to be blindly romantic about it. But I think this has been a wonderful experience for both brands as well as the content industry in terms of what we have experimented and what we have learned from.
Sure. Meghna and Prasoon, would you like to add and also tell us what's going to be the preferred mediums, dominating styles, most promising genres, and whether the current trend will stay or according to you, is it just temporary?
What chief digital officers couldn't do, the virus has done. I think digital as a medium is now a part of everyone's life in literal sense, right? And I have my 80-year-old grandmother who does a Zoom call, right? So the point remains that as far as a medium choice is concerned, I think digital is going to play a very, very critical role. We already see that in our category, at least, where all the spends, there was a offline online kind of a ratio of about 60-40 types. We already do see plans, and we expect that to settle somewhere around 70-30 in favor of online, right? So I think digital is going to play a big role going forward. In terms of style, before COVID also we did saw a trend. We did see a trend of videos grabbing a lot of attention, snacky, bite-sized. Videos were giving far better results than any other format. But however, one interesting change that has happened, and therefore I don't have a definite answer to this, is a long form of content has also found its flavor back now. And we have seen that even the days of long copies back in some sense.
Absolutely.
And we are using some of that as well rather effectively. So one doesn't know that they're going to stay, but that's an interesting trend that has happened when it comes to style and all. Genre, I think Meghna is a far better person to really talk about what's going to happen there. So over to you, Meghna.
Thanks, Prasoon. So I think firstly, what we know, or what we as creators knew is now evident to a lot of people, is that the story matters more than the how, right? In these times when production values have essentially become almost the same across different platforms, it's really been about the content itself and what you create that has really stuck and has grown, right? So it's all about that content and the meat of it, and the production values are icing on the cake. If you take something as big as Jimmy Kimmel to something like that Scoop would do, essentially there's not a lot of difference in terms of everybody shooting from home, right? So I think that's one shift, which I think what that does is it democratizes creation, which means, I hope that we will see a lot more creators who probably don't have the budgets to create content earlier before COVID, who will now be able to access audiences and who will be able to showcase their craft and their creativity, and they have a platform now, right? So I think that's a great new thing that's happened because of COVID. Secondly, I think that from a genre or from a format point of view, in general, we are seeing a trend towards interactivity, which TikTok started that, and now other platforms are building in tools for audiences to create content themselves. So when there's a lack of content available to you, there's also this big mass of audience created content that's accessible, right? So whether it's filters, it's stickers. Instagram just launched the challenge sticker, which is very similar to what TikTok is doing. So that sort of audience created enabled content will grow. And thirdly, the genres that I mentioned, right? We are seeing personal finance, mental health, ed tech, even things like social issues, right? I think for a long time we have bucketed youth as mindless entertainment seekers. It's clearly not the case. Young people are very, very engaged with what's happening in the world and want to see stories around the issues that concern them. So I think that those are the few genres that are growing and that we can see move forward post COVID.
I think that's an amazing closure to the discussion. Thank you everyone for taking out time from your busy schedules and joining us today for this special and very relevant discussion. Appreciate you all being here, and see you all next time.